This is all that remains of the Cypress section of I-880, a familiar symbol of both the destruction and the heroism of the October 17th earthquake, now some 6 weeks ago. Immediately after the earthquake, we at EBMUD shared the experiences of the community at large. We were surprised, concerned, and afraid. But once we fully understood the situation, we took action.
When the earthquake hit, my first reaction was that a big rig was going by too fast and was pushing a wall of air in front of it. And within seconds, I realized that that wasn't it. The street that I was on, the concrete street, started doing the wave and fluctuated at least a foot in either direction. The BART overpass and the freeway behind it were also fluctuating in this kind of configuration. The wall behind us that we were working at, Swenhard's Bakery on Adeline, started to vibrate and then proceeded to topple. Somebody taking a cigarette break just got out from underneath that wall with only a couple of seconds to spare when it crumbled down on the street. When the wall crumbled, it hit a telephone pole and pulled a transformer down onto the street, and that exploded in front of us, pulling all the high voltage wires, the service drops onto the street. So traffic on Adeline was thoroughly disrupted at that point. My concern at the moment when it first struck was to pull my crew out of the ditch. I told them both to get out instantly. We both stood, all three of us stood around kind of frozen for a couple of seconds, taking it all in. We didn't know what direction to run to, even though the feeling to run was ever present. Following that, we closed up the job as quickly as possible by putting our steel bridges on the ditch that we were working in, and then proceeded back to Central Yard.
It was quite a jolt. And after this building quit rocking and I crawled out from under the desk, I immediately went to the outside and saw that the Cypress Street structure had collapsed. I came back in the office, and the only person who was here was myself and Nancy, my secretary.
I went over to our mobile radio and to let them know that we were okay, that we were alive here, and to see if anybody else needed help. At that same time, Betty Jo Hilliard came on the radio. She runs the operations center on off hours.
Another operator and myself, Norma Griffin, worked with me last night. When this earthquake happened and everything was flying, and we had to operate for the time being with the power off and everything, no phone system, we worked outside in a vehicle.
About this time, when we made sure that on the radio people heard that we were there, that we were okay, we told them that we were going to check the other buildings. We came out of the building. I moved my car out of the building, and we came out of the building in Don's car and proceeded to go up the street to check on operations. At that same time, I got out of the car to run and see if our welding shop, I had changed to flats, and run to see if our welding shop was okay because they're in another location. When I did that, there was a man that drove by that said, try to get all of our heavy equipment and our cranes and everything because the freeway had collapsed.
I called my heavy equipment shop and found that we had about 6 employees over there, so I asked them to gather all of the heavy equipment that they could get and to report to this section over here, my office over here. I then went over to Central area, the Central Service Center, which is next door, and Floyd Foltz was over there, and he had already canvassed most of his folks that were present for duty.
The electricity is down, and couldn't open the gates. Phones are down, and people start coming in. With the phones down, we couldn't call our people, but they didn't need phone calls. They knew, and they just start coming in. At that time, we knew that the integrity of the overall system was good.
We were in a power failure immediately after the earthquake, so we lost control of everything. That went to the area control centers. We had no communication from the Oakland Control Center at all. The telephones were down and radio was having problems. So after I assessed the damage to the equipment here, I kind of picked my way over the furniture out to the parking lot, and Jack Jacobs brought a car over, and we started assessing damage to the district using the radio in his car.
It was confusion. There were a lot of people all over. Immediately, we started putting information together, and the next thing we knew, there were district employees coming in from everywhere. They had checked at home, they knew everything was secure, and it was nice to see that right afterwards, they came here as their next place to check in.
The night of the earthquake, I came back to Operations Center from the island of Alameda because I thought I could be of some help. Also, ironically, a couple of days before, I had gone on a tour of the OpNet system and realized that this would be the place to be to find out what was happening with the district's water system.
Soon we found out that every one of our area control systems were up and running. Every facility, each one of our 300 facilities here at East Bay MUD was being monitored. We knew storage in each reservoir zone was full enough to maintain supply to every one of our customers. We saw no major effects of main breaks. Our pumping plants, almost 90% of them continue to have power. We had communication to every one of our facilities. We felt secure.
There were a lot of people that had responded filling in as best they could in roles that they traditionally have not served. We had people working as telephone operators that were not telephone operators. We had engineers assisting the operations personnel in keeping track of the status of various facilities. The construction inspectors and distribution operators were inspecting all of our distribution facilities, including the open-cut reservoirs, the tank-type reservoirs, and the pumping plants.
I used to work in North area, so I knew how to operate mobile radios, and I knew a little bit about filter plants and reservoirs, and I was put to work immediately answering the phone and asked to call filter plants and let them know that our system was online and they could rely on this center for help.
Power was coming back to the OCC and they were taking control back of the different distribution systems. So I came down here and helped Bruce out, and there the OpNet system picked up a big 20-inch main break. It started draining our main central reservoir, and we had to take various actions, valve out certain things, and started dredging from Brione's reservoir to make up the lost water.
But we still didn't know because we had no phones. So the first two crews I got Jeff Sturtz and Walter Norbrega, and Ben Qualls and Tony Martin and Willie Mosley, another foreman. The call came in almost immediately for help over on Cypress. So I dispatched those 5 guys with whatever heavy equipment I could muster to go over. And Jeff and Walter and Ben and Tony pounded on concrete all night long.
I took the heavy load and went down and see what I could help assist down there. And I started making clear the path for emergency vehicles, the highway patrol and the fire department.
In the course of the evening, we helped them with lighting, acetylene torch assistance, as well as fresh air blower assistance that we had gone back to Central Yard to get the machinery, the equipment to help them with.
My supervisor, Floyd Folks, he was sort of worked in the control room. And I communicated back and forth with him, see if we can get the material out to the site itself, which such as dust mask for the people that are working on the structure, additional extension cord for the light itself, and also for the timber, which my supervisor, Floyd Folks, sent a complete load down from the warehouse to the structure itself. And the rest of the night was sort of hectic. We were moving from one side of the freeway to the other side and trying to clear a way and going from structure to structure, trying to assist as much as we could.
And it was pretty much like that all night. Me and Jeff was just saying we just got to keep calm, keep our heads about us, and deal with it. It's pretty amazing how everybody comes together. You know, it's too bad it takes something like that to bring so many people together working to save other people. But when people say, well, that was really, really good what you guys did and this and that, but I think anybody, if you heard somebody screaming and calling for help, you're going to run over and try and help them no matter what.
We then realized that we had considerable system failures, East Bay MUD water system failures in Alameda and some portions of Oakland. And by this time, I guess it must have been around 9 o'clock in the evening, most of our employees, without being asked, had returned to work, realizing that a disaster had occurred. And when they came into work, we put crews together and dispatched them to various locations throughout the district service area to try and identify what damages has occurred and what we could do to minimize the effect on the water users within the district service area.
And didn't fully realize how much extent the damages reached until a few days later, specifically in Alameda, where we had multiple breaks in many locations. But throughout that evening, I went around and checked a lot of job sites. Some of them turned out to be nothing. They were calls, nuisance calls, I guess. A few individual consumers had called that their water heaters were leaking and things like this. We shut a few mains down up in Berkeley. But again, the majority of the damage did occur in Alameda.
We have several breaks on this street here on Mariner Square in Alameda. The first call, this was the second break we went to after the quake. This is an 8-inch steel mortar-coated main, and we had a break on a welded joint, on a butt joint weld, which was fixed with a butt strap. Here we have an 1.5 inch PVC service break that we repaired. We still don't know, the main is still down, so we don't know how many more breaks there are here in the street. So, you know, we're still working at it. We don't know when we're going to get these people back in water.
I had received a call from Dale Noyce regarding this break here on this 60-inch raw water line which serves Sobrani filter plant. Approximately about 10 o'clock or so that evening on Tuesday. At about midnight, we got word that the pipeline had to be shut down, which in turn meant that Sobrani filter plant could not produce water.
The 60-inch raw water line comes from San Pablo Reservoir, right out of the dam, goes into Sobrani filters. It's the main supply, the only supply of water from the reservoir into Sobrani filters. Once the determination was made that it was coming from the raw water line, it was necessary then to contact the people in the filter plant, prepare to shut the filter plant down, take it offline, and distribution people had to make changes in the distribution, the way they brought water to this end of the county. Once we had the investigation, the top of the pipe appeared to be lifting off. At that time, we thought it was a concrete cylinder pipe. We weren't aware of the steel liner that's inside of the pipe. And we immediately put some weight back on the pipe to hold the pipe into place. And Bob Matern and myself went in under the dam, in under the lake, and shut the 60-inch valve, or made arrangements so the 60-inch valve could be shut so that we could get pressure off the main. And then Kenny, who's the crew foreman from North Area, who was initially dispatched here, started the excavation and the repairs on the 60.
At this time, we're excavating the trench completely to have the carpenter shop put some crib shoring in it so it can be a safe excavation to work in. Our hole is approximately 18 feet deep now. We're going to completely shore that up, and then we can go in, actually determine the full extent of the damage, cut the piece of pipe out that is damaged. Dale here has already called the company that manufactures this pipe. They're bringing us out a new 9-foot section, and we'll either cut in 9 feet, hopefully only 9 feet, or possibly 13-foot section of 60-inch pipe.
I made up a master list of all the people that was here, and I dispatched them to the trouble areas. And we were able to maintain a certain balance. At one point, we thought we had it under control, which we did actually have it under control, and I send some of the people home, you know, just in case something else would occur. We'd have a fresh crew to start the following day, and it worked out pretty good.
Yes, about approximately between 1 and 2 this morning, apparently the maintenance people here at Laney College came by and found the water shooting about 6 feet high out of this 20-inch transmission main. We didn't get crews out here until about 7 o'clock this morning, so I've been here since 7. And right now, the major part of the job is just to get it dug up and get to it. We have a lot of other pipes in the way, so it makes it a little more serious. Some electrical. As you can see, we've had to tear out many sections of fence here Getting access to it this morning was kind of difficult, so we spent a lot of hours doing that. At this point, we're just about ready to repair it, and we'll be out here for a few more hours, getting dirty and fixing it, but right now that's the important thing to do is get this job shut down. Apparently it's one of the larger breaks out of all the breaks in central area today.
The problem is there's a main break here. This is one of about 90 main breaks in the district. I'm from the machine shop, and our job is to bring pumps out and pump the water out of the hole, and to keep an eye on the pump as the hole fills up with water. So I brought out one pump, and it wasn't enough because the hole was filling up with water too fast. So I brought out 2 more pumps, and then 2 more pumps after that, and we spent all morning doing that. We finally got it squared away to where the hole was pumped out. They can work on the main break, and what I'm doing now is standing by with the pump to pump water out of the hole if necessary. So that might be an all-night job.
Those people, our employees, were just outstanding. They worked throughout the night on Tuesday. They worked also all day Wednesday. They worked throughout the night on Wednesday, and by Thursday we kind of got back to a small degree of normalcy.
For the majority of the time from Wednesday on, we had usually 11 crews working out of Central. The response and the aid from the other yards was fantastic. North area sent a crew, East, South, PCD, plus our own crews. And everybody, you know, there was no bickering about who was on whose crew. There were no problems. The guys understood what we were up against and responded accordingly. You can't say enough for those guys. It's just typical water company employees. We've had minor disasters in the past, and the same thing was on this one.
4 days after the quake of the 17th, my partner and I, Murray Edwards, were dispatched by management to come down into the freeway area to check to see if any of our facilities were leaking. We made a survey of the freeway area from 7th Street to 34th Street on Cypress on either side of the freeway. We found about approximately 10 to 12 leaks that were leaking, nothing major. We were able to ascertain that what we found were nothing of that great of importance until we could come down. After the Caltrans got out with their work and the contractors, we were able to come back in and do the repairs. Also, we had quite a few leaks in the Alameda area, and on the South Shore end of Alameda. My partner, Murray Edwards, again, he was the one that went over there and caught the leaks that were leaking there.
Potentially, we have some problems on a 36-inch main up on MacArthur Boulevard. We have leak detection up there, surveying that to determine the location of that one. We have the 20-inch over at Laney College. What we're doing on that one is to send in a television crew with the remote camera so that we can snake it up the 20-inch to determine where the second leak is. I just couldn't trust the gate valves in that area to physically have a guy crawl in that pipe to see if he could find the leak. We suspect that it's about 40, 50 feet in. Pretty much that's where we're at right now.
There was a lot of employees who just did outstanding work, the majority of them. They were just outstanding. I didn't do anything, but Floyd Foltz and I, all thing we did was direct crews and put crews together. The employees are the ones that rose to the occasion. They just did an outstanding job in responding to the emergency, and they're still responding. They've come in this morning, even with the rain, and wanting to know what else can we do. Anything that we can do, we're here to serve, and I can't do anything but applaud their efforts and just, you know, I don't know how I'm going to reward them, but some kind of way I'm going to make an attempt.
Everyone at the district should be proud of the way we responded in this emergency. Our customers and the community as a whole have benefited from our extraordinary efforts since the quake. I'm a customer too, and I know